Now I want to go to Apocalypse 13 because we need to talk not only about the beast as the empire, but there's actually a critically important aspect of this we haven't discussed yet. And a few of these points are also discussed in our video, The Great Apostasy and the Antichrist, which is on YouTube, and we'd recommend that people watch that in addition to watching this. But I'm going to be talking more about that now. So, in Apocalypse 13, we learn more specifics about the beast out of the sea, and we've shown the evidence why it's the European Union. It fits with the beast which was and is not, yet shall come up. It fits with the 10 horns, having the extent and reach of the Roman Empire. It fits that it came out of the sea. It fits with the fact that it came into existence during the reign of the 6th king, and it's going to fit even more precisely with the things we're going to cover. Now in Apocalypse 13:1 and following, it tells us that, "And the beast which I saw was like to a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his own strength and great power. And I saw," Apocalypse 13:3, "one of his heads as it were slain to death, and his death's wound was healed. And all the earth was in admiration after the beast." End quote. And so Apocalypse 13:3 says that one of the heads of the beast is wounded to death, and his death's wound was healed, and all the earth was in admiration after the beast. Well, the heads are kings over the city of Seven Hills. So one of those kings is wounded and recovers, and all the earth is in admiration after the beast. John Paul II, on May 13th, 1981, was shot in an assassination attempt. He recovered, and we must remember how amazing it was that John Paul II did not die on May 13th, 1981. He was shot multiple times by Ali Akka, a professional assassin. He was hit at least twice. Some reports say he was struck 3 times. He lost 3/4 of his blood. The doctors said that he was something like a centimeter from tearing a critical artery. And even Akka, the person who shot him, who later, quote, repented, and this was also part of the deception we're going to discuss, he was a professional assassin, and when he met John Paul II, he asked him how he had survived. And so it was clearly a deadly wounding, and he recovered, and everyone was in admiration after him, thinking that he was, quote, Mary's Pope, because it occurred on May 13th, 1981, the day of Our Lady's first appearance at Fatima in 1917. And that is also extremely significant. It lends even more support to the argument that this was an event tied in with the Great Deception, because Fatima is such a crucial matter in analyzing all of these events. It also ties into how Fatima was turned on its head and the true message was hidden while a completely false perversion of the truth was spread. Following the shooting of John Paul II in 1981, there were all kinds of false apparitions reporting that God and Our Lady say that he's a chosen, quote, Pope, that he's the hero of the church. People believed that the devil's main attack and communism's main attack was against him. That's why he was targeted. And in fact, when the Vatican finally released its false message of the third secret of Fatima, their interpretation was that John Paul II is really the hero of the third secret. Complete nonsense. And all of this was facilitated by his wounding and his recovery, and all the earth was in admiration after him. Now, what's additionally important is that we see in this verse that not only is the beast the empire that comes out of the sea, but also this head that is wounded is the beast. For it says that one of the heads of the beast was wounded and recovered, yet all the earth was in admiration after the beast. So the head of the beast is identified as the beast. And this actually makes perfect sense when you think about it. If the head is part of the beast, then that which happens to the head necessarily happens to the beast. when the beast is in existence. And the beast is in existence during the reign of kings 6 and 7. And therefore, that which is said of kings 6 and 7 is also truly said of the beast. The beast is therefore manifested by the heads, in addition to the empire. So when something is being described about what the beast does, it could refer to the empire, and it could refer to the emperor or the king reigning during that time. But both are truly said to be done by the beast. Another point we're going to cover a little bit later on is that even though what is done by the head or the king is necessarily done by the beast because the king belongs to the beast, that which is done by the empire itself is done by the beast, but is not necessarily done by the head or the king. And that also makes sense. For instance, if you kick something with your foot, well, you are kicking something, but your hand isn't necessarily striking anything. And so that which is done by your foot is done by you, but that which is done by your foot is not necessarily done by your hand. And so the fact that the beast is manifested not only in the empire, but also in the king reigning when the empire is in existence is proven by this verse and the verse we're going to look at later, Apocalypse 13:14. And so that's an important point to understand. So St. John sometimes speaks of the beast in view of the empire, and sometimes he speaks of it in view of the emperor ruling the seven-hilled city, the king, at the time of the beast. And that's what John Paul II was. And we have to remember that it says that the seven-hilled city is riding on top of the beast. And so John Paul II was the king of the seven-hilled city, which is riding on top of the beast. And that makes John Paul II the beast as well. And this, of course, fits with what we've pointed out for years, that he taught that every man is Jesus Christ. He claimed to be Jesus Christ by doing so. In his first homily, he claimed that man is the Christ of Matthew 16. He preached that man is Christ in ways that are so amazing, it's truly astounding. He denied basically every major dogma of the faith, and we'll cover more of that. And so he is a prime beastly figure who sat in the temple of God. Now, continuing in Apocalypse 13. It says, "And it was given to him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And he opened his mouth unto blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven." That fits exactly with John Paul II. "And power was given him over every tribe and people and tongue and nation." That fits as well, because in Apocalypse 17 we learn that the harlot sits upon many waters, and it tells us that the waters are peoples, nations, and tongues. And the Council of Trent actually understood that verse to refer to the nations of the church. Okay? And so the harlot, the Roman harlot, which is deceiving people, the false Vatican II sect, has authority. It assumes some kind of influence over the different nations of the Catholic Church who are looking to Rome, thinking that there's a true pope reigning, but there isn't. And so the fact that this head of the beast was given, and the beast was given authority over peoples, nations, and tongues fits again precisely. Now, before I proceed, I want to quote something from John Paul II's first encyclical, Redemptor Hominis. This was his very first encyclical, and this encyclical is filled with diabolical symbolism, absolute, astoundingly heretical statements. He defines Christianity not as the gospel of Jesus Christ, but the good news of man and the deep amazement at man. So we have man in the place of God, a new gospel about man. That is the mark of Antichrist, according to Pope St. Pius X. But in the very first paragraph of his very first encyclical, he says this, quote, "The universal service connected with the chair of St. Peter in Rome is already very close to the year 2000. At this moment, it is difficult to say what mark that year will leave on the face of human history, or what it will bring to each people, nation, country, and continent, in spite of the efforts already being made to foresee some events." End quote. He's quoting Apocalypse 13 here. He doesn't tell you that, but he's making reference to the mark of the beast in a cryptic way. He's not telling you that that's what he's talking about, but look at the language. He says, speaking of the year 2000, or just before it, and what will come in the year 2000, at this moment, it is difficult to say what mark that year will leave on the face of human history, or what it will bring to each people, nation, country, and continent. These words are basically directly from the chapter we're quoting from, Apocalypse 13. It speaks of a mark on the forehead, and we're going to discuss that. And it speaks of power over peoples, nations, countries, etc. He's quoting it, he's saying that it's a spiritual kind of mark that will come in the year 2000. And why is he talking about this without telling you what he's talking about? It's because you're dealing with the Antichrist, with John Paul II. That's what he was. And he's saying things like that because he's revealing some of the truth but not telling you what he's actually talking about. But we'll cover more of this.